Okay, hi everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I had a second of technical difficulty and I know it looks like GoToWebinar might be having a little bit of an issue, so hopefully everybody is on the call with me. I am going to be recording this, so if you have colleagues who for some reason aren't able to join, it looks like GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar might be throttling some of the attendance here, so I do apologize for any inconvenience. As a way of introduction then, for those of you who were able to get in on the call, and thanks everyone for confirming, at least you can hear me, so there's some positive here in all this, right? So my name is Jill McConaughey, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Client Relations here at LinkPoint 360. I'm very grateful that you've taken some time to join me for today's presentation. It's our deep dive tour of our enhanced side panel in LinkPoint Connect. I know these times are a bit scary right now, and everyone's a little, well, I'm personally a little discombobulated with all the remoting in and sort of the different change of pace with our work. So I definitely appreciate you taking time out of your day to join me for this presentation. Now, before I get started, I do want to remind everyone that I am recording this, so I will be able to send it out to everybody who registered and everybody who's on the call, whether or not you were able to get in due to that technical issue. All attendees are currently muted and in a listen-only mode for the duration of the webinar. In the GoToWebinar viewer, you can make the presentation full screen for easy viewing. And you can also submit questions to me or your own use cases for discussion by using the questions section of the GoToWebinar panel. So I will be taking a look at that along the way, trying to make sure that we're catching anything that comes up as we go through the software. We'll also have some time toward the end for some Q&A, depending on how we run with time. So LinkPoint 360 designs products that simplify working with or populating CRM data with minimal change to existing user workflows. So this means that we're trying to help users stay in their email application while moving the data to and from the CRM. Our solutions bridge the gap between users who prefer to work in their email, which makes a lot of sense. I'm one of those people, and the managers and the Salesforce admins who want the data to make it into Salesforce. They want the CRM adoption and they want the data quality to be there. LinkPoint Connect is our flagship integration solution, so users can view, record, create, and sync content between systems with as much or as little configuration as you want. Each LinkPoint Connect implementation is overseen by our Go Live team, which I'm part of, and we ensure that the business and workflow needs that you have are met by our software. Our various components support users on a number of different platforms with PC, Mac, mobile, webmail options. Today we're going to be focusing on our PC desktop version. And as most of you have seen over the past few months, LinkPoint Connect has undergone quite a change. We're excited to launch the new version of our Outlook side panel for Salesforce. We did this in Q4 of 2019. And throughout 2020, even with everything going on, we've been continuing to add and enhance features to make the offering even more robust. This different design and approach to our email integration is what we're calling the enhanced side panel. So if you're a current LinkPoint Connect customer and you're using the same version you've used for years, we're calling that our classic version. And this is going to be the enhanced side panel. You'll also hear this referred to as version or V7 from a technical perspective. Some of our support teams will refer to it that way. So you'll hear a couple different things. The enhanced side panel for LinkPoint Connect is designed to make it easier than ever for users to work between their email and Salesforce. You can work more seamlessly with some custom fields and objects. Email recording takes fewer clicks and is more intuitive. Workflows and forms have been cleaned up to make it a little bit more productive for everybody who needs to work in it. So today we'll take a closer look at navigating the user experience and what that new side panel actually looks like. We'll take a look at how to record both inbound and outbound emails. We can work with attachments still, so we'll show you where that's moved to. We have several different ways now that you can go ahead and create new Salesforce and Outlook records as well as update those. And we'll briefly touch on our sync options, which haven't changed a whole lot, and our new snap record functionality. And again, I remind you, go ahead and submit those questions to me in the questions pane. I'll try to keep an eye on it as I go here. Make sure that we address anything that you in particular really want to see. So let me just switch here and we will go ahead and we'll take a look at the enhanced side panel. Switch over to Outlook. All right, so hopefully everybody is now seeing my Outlook. And the first thing that you'll notice is that my side panel has a new look, a new layout, and a new feel. I do see real quick, I'm going to go ahead and interrupt myself because I see in the question section, I am aware and I'm very sorry. It looks like GoToWebinar is capping the number of people who can attend, even though we had 1,000 that were allowed to come in. So I do see if you have colleagues who are having trouble joining the call, I do apologize for that. Every single person who registered I have on a list, and we will get them a recording of today's presentation. So I'm very sorry for that inconvenience. We're just going to try to go with it as best as we can here. So to go back to my Outlook then, as you can see, I have a new side panel and it has a new look and feel and layout to it. So everything with the new enhanced side panel version has been consolidated to the side panel. So this is where you're going to view, record, you're going to create everything right from this side panel. Now, if you're worried about the side panel taking up space, that's a genuine concern. I'm working on a pretty big monitor today. When I switch to my laptop, totally big difference. So you can come up here to this top corner and collapse the side panel to pop it out of the way and make some room as you're working through your workflow. When you're working with an email or a contact, you can go ahead and pop this back open. Now, I will also note that I have made my side panel font a lot bigger than it needs to be. I've expanded it to make it a lot bigger. That's because I am working on a larger monitor and GoToWebinar doesn't always cooperate with that. So yours won't take up this much space and doesn't need to be so large when you look at it. The next thing that we'll talk about briefly here as we're getting acquainted with the new layout is the record buttons. So if you are a current LinkPoint Connect user and you're used to working up here in your top left corner with your record buttons, we have removed the record buttons, but please, please, please don't panic. We still record emails. You still have plenty of flexibility in how those emails get recorded. When we relaunched the side panel, they optimized the technology to make it a little more lightweight in Outlook, to make it even more responsive. And so when that happened, the record buttons and that functionality were just absorbed over into the side panel. So with that said, we can take a look now at how to record emails, because I know that's the number one thing that people come to us for when they're working between Salesforce and Outlook. So I'm on an email here, and just like in our classic version, the enhanced side panel is email address centric. What that means is when we're on an email and we click it, our side panel is going to look at the email, it's going to check Salesforce, and it's going to find any and all matching and related records based on the email addresses on the email. So the first step, finding those records, is already done for me. I'm on this email from Fred. The side panel looked and saw Fred and Jake are on this email, and I'm demoing as Sally today. And so the side panel is showing me Fred and Jake, and it's also showing me some, we can pop these open here, some additional related records. So I have accounts, I have opportunities, I think there's a couple cases tucked down here. These are the records that have something to do with the people on the email. So I don't have to try to guess at what I'm working with or find where I want to send information. If you want to see more information, because this is sort of a snapshot here, it's not a whole lot of information about Fred, you can click this little record details icon, and that'll pop out the record details pane. This is going to give me more information about Fred. It's as if I'm previewing his record in Salesforce. Now again, yours is going to look a little different than mine because we dynamically pull in based off of your Salesforce objects, your page layouts, your fields. So yours might have different items listed and different levels of access, but the functionality is pretty similar. So now that we know who we're working with, it's my old go-to Fred here, let's take a look at how to record this email to him. So Email recording 101. Anywhere in your side panel that you see a checkbox, you can record the email to. So to record this email to Fred, I find the checkbox and I click the checkbox, and Fred moved down. Now you can see, let's move this out of the way. You can see in the related to Salesforce section, Fred's record moved from the top to the bottom of my screen. In one click, I instantly recorded that email to Salesforce. Super simple, super fast. I think Salesforce limits you to 50 contacts, so I can add Jake just by clicking the checkbox up here. Now I've recorded to 2 contacts. Just like in the record window, you can also record to those Salesforce, I think they're called what records, right? Your accounts, your ops, your cases. In this case, we can go ahead. Let's find an opportunity. And now I've recorded this email to 2 contacts and an opportunity. So find a checkbox, find the record, check the box. Any record that moves to the bottom in this section, this is a history of everywhere that has been recorded to. Everything is in real time on an inbound email here. So this email is in Salesforce on 3 different records. If you made a mistake and you don't want to record, let's say, to this opportunity, just uncheck the box. It removes that relationship when you're on the opportunity in Salesforce. Now I won't see that. Okay? I'm just going to undo this just for a second because I want to show you something else. Okay. So let's go all the way back to the beginning here. Usually people wouldn't do this step. For those of you who used our Smart Record button, which has also been consolidated to the side panel, it's super simple to use the same functionality in the enhanced side panel. So the Smart Record functionality let you one-off click to record to multiple contacts in one shot. We have something very similar. So down here in this relate to Salesforce, let's pretend I never worked with this email before. I'm seeing that not only did the side panel find all of these different records in the top half of the side panel, but it's also recommending down here 2 contacts that it thinks are probably where I want this to go based on the people on the email. All I have to do to record to everyone in this list, if I had 40 people here, it would list 40 people, is click the Accept Suggestions link. I've recorded to 2 contacts in 1 click. So that's another very quick way to work with email recording. Very briefly, while we're here, I'll show you how attachments work, because you'll see this email has an attachment on it. And you'll see over here in the side panel, there's an attachment section listed. And when we expand that, you see the side panel is saying that it found an attachment on my email, and there's a checkbox. If I want to record this sample PDF back to Salesforce with the email along with these 2 records, simply check the box. So now you can see that I have stacked the email with 2 contacts plus an attachment. So really simple. Attachment recording is off by default, so you'll have to opt in, and I'll just undo that for a second to include those, but there is a configuration option that I can show you when we get to that. So that's email recording on inbound. Now let's go ahead and take a look at email recording on an outbound. So let me pull that up for you. And here we have an outbound email, and I'm doing this as a reply to Fred. And the first thing that you may notice if you've been working with LinkPoint Connect for a while is I have a side panel inside my outbound email, which I think is super helpful because you can leverage the exact same functionality for the most part on an outbound email now as you would with an inbound. So you have a lot more flexibility here. The second thing I want to point out is not only is there a side panel, but it's smart enough to know that inbound email that I've related to Fred and Jake, now I'm replying. It's not only recommending Fred and Jake down here in the bottom part of my side panel, it's actually retaining those relationships. So those boxes are checked for me already. Now, that's super helpful because probably 90% of the time that's going to match what you expect to do with the reply or a forwarded email. But you can also override this and uncheck the boxes. So there, I don't want Jake, maybe I want this account instead. And so you can still play with this. It's not sort of a hard line that you have to follow. Attachments on an outbound email, same thing. If I'm including this attachment but I want to record it, I can select the checkbox and bump it down. Now, you can stop here and just click send. So there's no send and record button anymore. It's just send, it's just Outlook. And if I did that, it would record the email to Fred and this account that I have selected here and bring the attachment along. There are a couple other productivity features I want to show you very briefly that I think work a little bit better workflow-wise for an outbound, but they are accessible on an inbound as well. And the first is going to be follow-up tasks. So typically, when I am replying to somebody, I'm usually promising them something. I'm going to follow up with you about a training. I'm going to schedule a meeting with you in 2 weeks so that I can make sure that you're getting the most you can out of LinkPoint. And I could send this email and then go create my reminders. I find it a lot easier to go ahead and create my follow-ups from here. You have to have your email related to at least one thing, which I have right here. And then you'll see this little clock icon. So I'm going to click that, and it's going to launch a form. Yours will look a little different than mine. This is my task page from Salesforce. It's just presented to me in Outlook. And the neat thing is, because I have related the email to Fred in this account, the task here is also automatically related to both of those. You can't override that. You can use the lookup fields and change it. We're going to pull in just to start the subject of the email for the subject of the task, but you can change it like I just did. You will always have to complete any required fields. So this will reflect your business workflow rules, your requirements, but we make it pretty simple. That took me about 10 seconds while I was chatting. And you can click the green check mark. Now, by default, I have mine configured to work with tasks. You can change this or toggle back and forth to work with events too. So here I'm creating myself a task. I could have created a Salesforce event instead. So that's behind the scenes waiting for me. The next thing I want to show you is how to change how the email appears in Salesforce. So this is just the second piece in an email chain. Let's pretend this is the 22nd time that I've written back and forth with Fred. And the subject line of this email may no longer match up with what the email is actually about. Maybe in the beginning it was about asking me about a trial, and now he's purchased 40 licenses and he needs a training. When we record emails to Salesforce, we use the subject of the email that you're recording as the subject of how it appears in the activity history. You can change this. Go down to the bottom of your side panel, click the View Salesforce Fields button down here. It's bright orange. And this is going to pop up a box, and I can change how the subject of this appears inside Salesforce. The great thing is, and you'll make that a little more descriptive based on what your email is about, the great thing here is that Fred's going to have no idea I've done this. So it doesn't change what's going out of Outlook. It changes how things appear inside of Salesforce. You can also edit the body of the email if you need to. Green check mark saves your changes. Lastly, and this is outbound email only, and I'm just going to touch on this very briefly, we do now also offer the option to work with Salesforce email templates. So if you're building those in Salesforce and you want to use them for frequent communication out of Outlook, it's the third icon here on the left with the two little squares. You can click that and work through a really easy wizard to merge fields and drop in some content on an outbound email without having to do the same typing over and over. So I know that was a lot. I've been talking for quite a bit now. I'll just do a quick review. We've looked at how to record an inbound email from our inbox and work with the new side panel layout with the record functionality included. We've looked at how we can do that very similarly on an outbound email and how we can actually inherit prior relationships to cut down on some clicks. We've looked at how to create follow-up tasks or events, how to change how the email looks once it makes it to Salesforce, and we've mentioned that we can support email templates. I am going to stop here. I see the question pane is starting to fill up, and I'm going to see what we have popping up here on the question side of things. Give me just a second to see what I've missed rolling in. Oh, there's quite a bit here. All right, let's see. I see a drag and drop question. Dane, I'm going to skip that until I do drag and drop and see if we can help answer that. So bear with me there. Amber, I'm not sure if what I just showed you helped answer your question about recording a sent email. I think it might have. If it didn't, we can certainly circle back or we can look at that separately. You shouldn't have to record an email after you send it. You should have that side panel once you've upgraded like you're seeing here on my screen. Which goes right into John's question here. Should we be seeing the new side panel in our Outlook? I will talk about who has the upgrade and who doesn't have the upgrade available to them as of yet. It's perfectly normal that you may not see what I have here. So the upgrade is going out on a rolling basis. So I think that also covers Susie and Riley here as far as when you can get this. If you don't have the new side panel yet and you want to have the new side panel, we can absolutely get you set up. So we'll talk about how to do that a little bit later in the presentation. Let's see here. How do I move the side panel? I believe if you click and drag it, there's a way to redock the side panel, Bob. It's an Outlook feature. It can go left or right, and that should be something I can look up a help article on if we can't figure out how to do it for you, or I can touch base with you after. Answered this. Let's see. Tessa, hi. Yes, so for an outbound email, you do have to pop the email out to be able to work with it the way I'm showing you. So that's why I have that email in a separate window. You can start drafting it in that sort of, I guess the opposite would be popped in view. And then when you're ready to kind of actually work with it, you do have to hit that pop out button to work with it. Let's see. Can you record meeting invites? Susie, stay tuned. We will get to how to work with calendar items a little bit later on. Dana, okay, so if you don't see this big orange button here at the bottom of your side panel, I will show you in a little bit where you can configure that. It's likely off by default, so we'll make sure that everyone knows how to do that. Sue, GDPR, 100% can't answer that honestly. I'm not certain how using templates affects your compliance, so definitely don't use templates if you're not supposed to. I'm sorry, I'm not a GDPR expert, but I think if you check with your internal, you should be able to get a better answer than that. Let's see. Can you see a list of Salesforce tasks and follow-ups in Outlook? Holly, when you turn on a sync, which we'll talk about later, we will absolutely show you how to bring those items back to Outlook so you can work with them. We'll talk about the drop zone in a little bit. So let me just jump ahead here. And if I skip anybody and I forget to come back to you, just re-ask me. Jennifer, yes, there is a way when you're working with attachments to exclude all those pesky email signature photos and Twitter icons. I will show you how to do that when we get to the preferences pane so that you don't have to clog Salesforce up with Twitter icons. That's kind of a pain. Sue, let's see. In Classic, do you have to opt in for attachment recording? Attachment recording rules are the same between Classic and Enhanced here. They look or they're presented to you differently because one has the record window and this one's just everything's in the side panel. But the off by default, you have to select your attachments is the same for both versions. So to kind of piggyback on what Jennifer was asking, I'll show you where to configure that in a little bit. Let's see. If I forget to record the email before I send it, can I record it later? Absolutely. I'm showing you based off of the inbox. You can go into any folder in Outlook, your sent folder, your I already took care of this filed away folder. So definitely can go in at any time if you haven't recorded an email, click on it, use your side panel, record it after the fact. Do you need to have a specific version of Outlook for this new UI? I do not believe that this UI has any different requirements, Dawn. I think we're backward compatible at least through Outlook 2013. I can triple check that if anybody's working with something a little bit older. I know Microsoft stopped supporting some of the really old versions. Let's see, if you want to record an email to someone that is not on the email. Excellent question. We were going there next, Carol. So if I want to record this email, as Carol just asked, to a record that's not on this email. So I've got Fred and Jake, but what if I just need to tag it back to something completely random? Use your search. Your search is much more dynamic. I'll kind of jump ahead and speak about that now since it came up. When I see a few people asking, I see Helen asking this as well. So if I know I need to tag this back, let's say to a partner, I can go in here. If I remember what his name is, I can search. And this is going to search name fields. It's going to search keyword word fields, excuse me. So I can quickly now also record this back to Tom here. I can go ahead. I think I have an opportunity with that name. Yep, I do. Perfect. So I could change out, I don't want that account. Now I want this opportunity as a little bit more of an accurate representation. So you can absolutely go and search for anything and anything. Doesn't have to be related to the email. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be, but you're not restricted there. And since we're talking about it, this drop-down arrow here, this retains the last 10 or so search terms. So if you just look something up and now you're on a different email and you want to look the same thing up, pick the option, go ahead and click your little magnifying glass here, and you can run that search. See how it updated. If you start searching and get buried here, you can click this little refresh button and it'll reset it to the suggestions that are coming from the email itself. Okay, that was a lot of really great questions. I hope that I hit most of them. I'm going to keep moving ahead and then see if I miss anything along the way. Let's see real quick what Douglas sent me here. That's a great question. So Douglas is asking, after I save an email to Salesforce, and then later I can't remember if I did it or not, if I try to do it again, will let me put in a duplicate. We will remember that it's recorded for you. So you'll come back to that email later and you'll see, let's pop this out of my way here. So back in my inbox. So if I leave Outlook for a day, a month, and I come back to this email, it's still going to show me down here those related to options that I selected however long ago that was. So you won't be able to put this email in again. You can come back to it at any time and remove relationships or go, oh, you know what, it's been a month, but I really want to tag this back to an account. And I can certainly go ahead and tack something on at a later date. But yeah, you can't put a duplicate email in unless you're going back and forth with someone and there's like 12 in a chain. Okay. Great questions. I'm going to forge ahead and hopefully I catch most of these. I apologize if I miss somebody. I'll make sure to email you afterward. There's just quite a lot here. I wanted to talk next about record creation. I find email recording really helpful and viewing the Salesforce data in my side panel really helpful. And it's only as helpful as whether or not you have the right data in your CRM. So the side panel lets users not just view info, but also create and edit data without having to go to Salesforce. So to talk about this a little bit, I'm going to switch to an email from someone who's not in Salesforce. And I can tell he's not in Salesforce because A, the bottom's blank. It's not recommending any records here. And B, I'm not seeing any other Salesforce records pretty much anywhere. But the panel has done something new, and this is new for our enhanced side panel, and it's collecting some information that you're seeing up here in this this extra little section here. There are several different ways you can create contacts and leads, and if you've been with LinkPoint for a while, you've seen some of these. I just want to touch on, make sure everyone's aware, but we're going to start with the new one. Thanks, Riley. I just saw your, yes, my inbox has 3 things. I worked very hard to get that down. All right, good. I needed the laugh with all the technical issues there. So we're going to start with connections because connections is new with the enhanced side panel. And what it does is it keeps track of all of the new people that you're going to come into contact with in Outlook. And it makes it easy to pick when and where you want to work with them. So Michael James could be a partner, he could be a lead, he could be some random guy from a current customer account that I just haven't bothered with yet. And I may or may not feel like dealing with him right now as far as data cleanup, but Connections is going to look at the email and it's going to collect as much information as it can about him. And when I'm ready to work with him and actually clean my data up, it makes it super easy. So when I'm on an email, Connections will always present me contextual information. This is the person, or these are the people we found on your email, but they're not in Salesforce. Hey, did you want to work with this? So how do I work with it? Orange buttons on the bottom here. The first one creates a contact, the second creates a lead. Let's go ahead and try to work with a contact here. I'm going to move my questions pane that I see and you don't. And what you'll see here is Connections took all of the connections details and it dropped it into a form. This will look a little different for you because this is my contact page layout, so your fields will be a little bit different, but it's pre-populated a whole lot of the information that it's collected. This checklist here on the left tells me what made it and what didn't to a particular field. Here we didn't quite match up vice president. So let's go ahead and click that, hold it, and drag it to the field we want it in. If my mouse will work, there we go. And just like that, you can see that I was able to move data to fields without typing. You're still going to have to verify the information. You're still going to have to complete your required fields if you have them, but green check mark immediately adds this as a contact in Salesforce. Then you'll be able to record your email. Then you'll be able to work with other Salesforce information as it relates to that person. I'm going to work with him more, so I'm actually going to not save that. The leads work the same way. We do have an option here to work with an Outlook contact. So if Michael James, let's make this bigger. If Michael James doesn't quite need to be in my CRM, but I want to hang on to him as a contact in my Outlook, maybe he'll pop up on my phone later, you can certainly see we've filled out those same fields here. You can just click save and close, and it's that easy. I'm not going to save that. Okay. If you don't want to work with Michael James, maybe he's spam, maybe he's just someone who I'm never going to really need to have in my CRM, you can click this little X icon here and make him go away. When you're on an email, Connections will always be contextual, like I said, but if you want to see a running list of every contact that it's aggregated for you, all the way in the bottom of your side panel, in the middle, this little circle icon here, kind of tiny. Now I'm in a demo account, but if you were working with your data, you'd probably have a lot more than 2 or 3 people listed here. This is a running list of everybody that it's found so far in my Outlook that's not a contact somewhere. So if you want to kind of ignore it on the fly, but come in here later and sort of do a quick click, go, click, go, and go through your contacts, you can certainly do it that way as well. Now we still have our drag and drop, and I've seen a couple of questions in the questions pane here about that, and so I'll demo that as well. Very briefly, we do allow users to use email signatures to create records. If you highlight that signature, click and hold, drag the information, so my mouse button's still down, to this drop zone, bottom left corner. You're going to watch me mouse over it, and it's going to turn orange. And let go. Okay. When I let go of my mouse over that drop zone, I get prompted with what kind of a record do you want to create. I can do a contact and lead. It will work very similar to Connections did and pop up that form. For fun, let's just try an account. And you'll see any of the relevant fields to an account that we can work with based off of what we got from that email signature are going to be filled out. Same rules apply. So if you need to move things to different fields, let me just shift this a bit for myself. If you need to work with different fields, if you have required fields, you can do that. Fun fact, we do support record types. So here's an example on an account. If you're working with different record types for accounts, this comes up on cases, opportunities, custom objects. You can actually toggle between those. So here's a good example of that. Green check mark creates the record. We're just going to skip that for now. Another thing I like to show drag and drop for, which seems counterintuitive, is existing contacts. So Fred's definitely in Salesforce because we've already recorded an email to him. But if I want, maybe I wasn't paying attention or I wanted to see what's different about him, I'm going to drag and drop him and try to create a contact. And we're actually going to stop first and say, are you sure you want to do that? Because it might be a duplicate. And this is our active update screen. So you can certainly go ahead and create a duplicate if you've got a really good reason for it. Otherwise, you can click on the record that we're presenting and see down in that bottom part the differences between what we have on file versus what's in his signature. So here, maybe I do want to make those changes. Green check mark. Here's my form. I have to, again, double, triple check everything, finish any required fields or business rules. It won't save anything to Salesforce until you click the green check mark. Now I've shown you how to work with a little bit of accounts and contacts and leads. What about everything else? Anywhere you see this little paper and pencil or little form icon, you can create something new. This is new with the enhanced side panel, and yours will look different than mine, but we auto-detect custom objects out of the box. So your list will have different things in it than me. It may have different things than your neighbor, depending on how your levels of access in Salesforce vary. The great thing is it's really dynamic. So out of the box, you can come right in here and start working with the things that are the most critical to your workflow. Let's go ahead and open an opportunity. Again, yours will look different than mine, but very easily I can go ahead and see everything I need to do with an opportunity from Salesforce. I don't have to leave Outlook to do it. So click, click, done, green check mark to save. You can do this contextually from any record. So here's another one of those little form icons. I can do it from an account. I can actually create a case about the account. I can create, maybe let's do an event, create a calendar item related to that account. And you can see, because we know we're on an account, my related to section here is completed for me already. I'm on an email, so it's pulling in the subject of the email just to be helpful, but you can change it. And again, required fields, business rules, these things can vary. That's a lot of record creation. How do I update something? Super simple. Anywhere that you see a pencil icon, so here's a pencil, here are a couple pencils, that's your edit. So if I want to change an opportunity stage or update some case notes or make an alteration to some account details, click your pencil, you can come in here, you can make your quick change, you can click the green check mark, and as long as you have Salesforce permission to do so, those changes will get saved immediately into Salesforce. And you can see that got written right there for me. I'm going to stop again because I know that was a lot. And again, I do see some notes about people just being able to get into the webinar. Absolutely, I'm recording it. I apologize. We've had some issues with GoToWebinar capping some of the registration today. Everyone will get a copy of the recording. So let me just pause for a second and see if I can catch up with some of your questions. I do see some folks saying that they're not seeing some of what you're seeing on my screen. It could be that you haven't upgraded. It could be that you have an update that hasn't taken yet. If you're not seeing things auto-populate or pop or actually load in the side panel, it could be that you're not connected to Salesforce. So anyone who's having little bits of strange things happening, that's okay. We can actually take a look at that after the call and make sure that we get you squared away on that. Let's see, Helen, is there a way to create a new contact from a forwarded email? Helen, if you're forwarded the email, you can either scrape the information out of the email with the drag and drop if that person's signature is in there. At any time, you can use those create icons that I showed you throughout. So if you're looking for something a little more specific, you can let me know. We can certainly do a call separately just to make sure that I understand your use cases. Let's see. Dana, can you create a contact that does not have a company name instead of having to create a lead and then convert it? Dana, that's 100%, I think, maybe 99% up to your Salesforce rules. I'm not a Salesforce admin, but I'm pretty certain that that can be controlled on the Salesforce side. So we're always going to show you on your forms what you would have to do if you were in Salesforce. So if you're required to create a company name or an account to relate your contacts to, you won't be able to get around that using our software. Jim, the demonstration today is for our Salesforce only integration. Douglas, will the side panel stay pinned in Outlook when I jump from email to email? It stays pinned. You've seen me kind of move a little bit. I'll do it again. So the side panel is reloading with different information, but my side panel is not going anywhere. Sorry, I'm just reading here. Can I create an event? Absolutely. I'll just show you again real quick. Create a new event from scratch right up here in the top right corner. If you're on a record, here's your little form icon. Click anywhere you see the option to create an event. There's where you're going to get your events. Okay, so just making sure everyone saw that. Robert, I see my panel in my inbox, but I don't see it on my sent. Robert, I think we should connect later, Robert. I'll make sure to reach out and have someone take a look at your setup just to make sure that that's okay. Jim, no, Zoho is not currently supported. And Chesky, we can take a look at your setup separate from this call. If you're upgraded to the new version, and yours looks like mine does, sort of, you're going to see events as long as A, you have access to creating events in Salesforce because we follow your permissions, and B, as long as your admin at your company didn't disable event creation for some workflow reason. So we do have custom deployments we do for customers and they choose to shut certain things off. So we can take a look and see exactly what's going on with yours offline. Sue, you can get a list of your users for LinkPoint Connect by emailing customer success at linkpoint360.com. You'll get me and I will send you a user report so that you can see who's using this. Back up here. Dawn, yes. Okay, so we have run into customers who want to record an email to two things, like you're saying. Sometimes I call them what's, like a case or an account. With the new version of the software, there's no workaround for that, and I believe that restriction of only being able to record to one what, so I'll show you just in case no one else understands me. This email is now tagged to an opportunity. If I go and I want to apply it also to an account, I'm getting that error message in the bottom that I can't do that. That's a Salesforce restriction. So if you are working with, do I record to the case? Do I record to the account? I think you're just going to have to try to pick the best match and also look at what your current setup is. If you record to I don't know all the rules. If you record to a contact and it happens to roll up and be visible on an account, then maybe you do contact and case. So we can talk about that a little bit more, but that is a restriction here. How configurable are the labels? The labels reflect exactly what you have in Salesforce, so I can't change accounts to say stuff. If you change and rename accounts to something else, it will update the next time that the user updates. I think it's like once a day it checks for changes. Just reading through a couple more questions. Sorry, there's a ton and I'm trying to read really fast, but it keeps moving on me. Bulk email and mail merge. If you send an email to 200 people and the only difference is the name, there is nothing built into our software to help, unfortunately, with bulk emailing and recording. That's going to be, it's sort of more of a email marketing tool versus what we're doing, which is usually one-to-one. So you're gonna, if you have a way that's been working for you, this version doesn't do that any differently. And Tess, we can take a look at that a little bit separately if you want later on. Can LinkPoint sync? Yes, LinkPoint can sync tasks. I'm hoping to get to that. I've got a lot of people on the call today, Rob, but yes, we do sync tasks between Salesforce and Outlook so that you can work with them wherever you are working. Let's see. The best, I see a lot of people asking about the best way to get in touch with me. Email customer success at linkpoint360.com. It sounds long. It's shorter than spelling my name. It's a lot easier, and I'm behind that inbox. So I would just say definitely just email customer success, all one word, at linkpoint360.com, and we can go through that. Let's see, I know I don't want to come over time here, but I don't want to miss anything else. Let me talk for a few minutes because I know there are some things I had foreshadowed and I want to hit those things. A couple of buttons and icons that I skipped that I think are going to be helpful, and then we'll pop into the preferences. So when you mouse over a record, you see the little row of orange icons. We've talked about most of them. Let me finish speaking about the rest, and then we'll come back to the questions. Anywhere you have a paperclip icon, you can drag and drop a file. So for example, if I don't want to record this whole email and I just want to save this, maybe it's a signed contract or this file, click and hold, drag and drop, let go over the paperclip icon. Okay, so that immediately uploads just that file to just this account record that I'm on. So that's good to see. You've got paperclip icons in a lot of places. Sometimes that's helpful. If you ever need to get to Salesforce, this box with the arrow, that's going to launch the record you're on in the browser so that you can find it. We've talked about the search up here. We've talked about the refresh. How do I make sure all my preferences are set? Bottom right corner. So here's this little toggle icon. I'm going to pop open my preferences pane. It looks like a lot. It's not that bad. Our user guide does go through and I'll make sure everyone gets a link to that later. The user guide goes through every single setting here, and I don't want to do that on this call, but things that have come up while we've been talking. You want to create your follow-up, but you want to work with events instead of tasks. That's right here. Hopefully you can see I'm trying to circle it. If you want to automatically record all attachments, I think someone asked me that, check this box. But you don't want to record pesky Twitter icons. Add in this box those common graphic extensions. So I have the GIFs, I have the JPEGs. You can put a PNG in here. You can customize this. And I'm just going to shut that off, but you would want to leave that checked. If we pop down to the advanced preferences, if you want to edit the subject and body of your email and you were one of the people telling me, hey, I don't see that big orange button at the bottom of my side panel, you need to come to Preferences, Advanced, and check this last option. This allow me to edit. I believe that setting is off by default. So if you want to work with that, you have to come in here and you have to actually turn that on. You can't change how objects appear. It's based off of your Salesforce settings, but you can change the ones that you work with. So everything kind of below this fold in my preferences that looks really long, it's a list of every object that the system identified I have access to. If I don't want to work with campaigns, I don't want to search for them, I don't want to create new ones, I don't want to edit them, I don't care, just uncheck that box. We do have a lot of functionality around tweaking the different fields that are displayed. Let's back out of here. So you can change what fields are displayed on like an opportunity or an account. And there's a lot of configuration possibilities there. So we can't change a label, but we can swap out what fields are shown. That's all in the user guide, and I can also consult with you if you want to email customer success at LinkPoint360. I can kind of help you with that from that perspective. I'm going to pause again and trying to keep up with these questions, and I know we've got about 10 minutes here. Let's see. Okay, Chris, I think talking about that edit subject line and email body should have covered it. If that didn't, let me know. I don't know if you were on the call when I went over that earlier. I know some people were having trouble logging on. How do I get a few test users running? So if you are a current customer, I can help you upgrade your account. And if you are not yet a customer, I can get you access. And either way, you can contact customer success at linkpoint360.com. I know I keep saying it, but it's the easiest spot that way that I don't lose anybody's requests. Just going to double back and check my questions here real quick. Okay, I know we had a couple questions around meeting invites. Actually, I'm going to stop because that's a great question, Tony. What is the cost to upgrade to enhanced? $0. This is absolutely free. It's included in your subscription. We just have to, in some cases, enable it for you and make sure that everything is going to work how you expect, since it is quite a shift in how you use it. But there is no cost to go ahead and do this. I am going to jump ahead here and talk very, very briefly about syncing, because I think that's come up a bit and I want to make sure I squeeze that into the presentation. Now that I've said every single thing we've done is consolidated into the side panel, I'm going to go back on that and say, accept your sync settings. So that's going to be inside LinkPoint Assist still. So that separate window that you have to get to from your taskbar, that's all still here. The sync settings are the same as they used to be. So what does that mean? Independent support for calendar, contact, and task syncing. So you can set different rules for different ones. You can turn one off and leave one on. You can make it one way or bidirectional. I always recommend that if you're going to turn this on or play with these settings, you ask someone on our team to double check what you're going to do or to run like a test with you, because it works really great and there's no undo button. So I want to make sure that before you turn something on and sync 4,000 contacts one way or the other, that it's going to work how you expect. There's a lot of flexibility around the sync settings. You can auto sync, you can pre-configure it and then only click to run it when you feel like it. You can sync everything on a calendar. You can sync only things that you put a flag on. Very high level discussion here, because again, we like to make sure that we provide some best practices around how to configure it based on what you expect your outcome to be. Syncing is great though, because everything you've seen where I'm creating an event or I'm creating a task, everything's going up to Salesforce. So to a couple of your points here in the questions, you'll want to do some kind of a sync to bring those tasks you're creating in Salesforce related to the right records back down to Outlook where you're actually working. So we can definitely talk a little bit more about how that works. Some of you may come in here and not be able to change these settings. That's also expected. If we've done a onboarding for your company, they may have preset these for you. They may have removed access. They may have preset it and grade it and you can't change it. Definitely in that case, speak to your IT admin or your Salesforce admin on your side. Otherwise, we're more than happy to help work with you. Now, I do all that talking because on the other side, we did release with the enhanced side panel a new way to work with, it's kind of like recording a meeting invite, and I'll show you that really quickly. And I have one ready to go here, I think. So here's a meeting, and what I like about the new interface is when I'm on not just an email, but I'm on a task, I'm on an event, I can go ahead and I can use the side panel the same as I would on an email. So I've addressed this, the side panel's done its job, it's found some records, and I'm going to show you one special thing here, but let's go ahead and accept these suggestions. And you'll see that I'm actually stopped. When you're working with events, tasks, we can turn it on for email. There is support for updating additional Salesforce fields, because we've heard some feedback that adding your meetings to Salesforce is great, but having a little more context around them and reportability is even better. So in this case, before I'm even able to relate an event to Salesforce, I have to actually complete a couple extra fields here. And again, yours are going to look different than mine, and you may not even have this configured, so this step might not be relevant. If it's something you're interested in and you don't see it or you want to deploy it to your team, let me know. We'll get it turned on for you. But this is going to update not just the event, but also some event fields for me. Now that I do that, you can see just like in an email, I have some records here that are selected. And when I send this, even with my sync off, this is what we call snap record. Even with my sync off, when I send this, just this one meeting, because I've related it to Salesforce, will go up to Salesforce one way in sort of a pseudo sync. It works the same way for tasks if you happen to be creating them in Outlook, but you want to just push them up to Salesforce real quick. So that's an alternative to turning on a full system sync. And I'm going to stop again and just see, I know we're coming up on the hour, and it might even be something for me to consider to do a separate webinar in the future just on the email recording, because I know there were so many questions about that. So I want to make sure if you have questions about a feature you've seen or a feature you haven't seen, that you definitely let me know either here or after the webinar. I definitely want to make sure that we're addressing that for you. I'm going to switch back real quick because I'm seeing questions about the upgrade and I want to show you that slide. So give me 1 second to switch gears here for you. Okay, I'm getting lots of questions about upgrades. So trying to approach that in a nutshell here. Upgrades, okay. New trial users and accounts that are relatively new probably already have access to this. I know some of you we have done some of the upgrade process with, some of you have a user or two testing, you might be in different stages. Most of you may not have the release. And the reason is it's being released on a rolling basis, but also something to consider accounts with a custom configuration, accounts that are deploying using a virtual desktop or a Citrix environment, you're not going to get upgraded automatically. You don't have to pay for the upgrade. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to have the upgrade. It's just because you have a really specific configuration and we don't want to override or upgrade or push something onto any organization until we know that that's what you want. So the enhanced side panel upgrade is available to anybody who's a customer, anybody who's trialing. It's the PC version of our software like you've seen. And if you're not upgraded or haven't been contacted about upgrading and you would like to do so, email customer success at linkpoint360.com because I can take a look at that with you. We can talk through who you want to have testing first. We can talk about when you'd like to have your entire account upgraded, and I'll help manage that process for you. I'm seeing some questions here. We can do that around your own time frame. So I know some companies, now's a great time because they have a little bit more downtime. Some companies are finding with everyone working remotely, it's not the best timing. You can absolutely go ahead and let me know whenever you are ready to work on that. We're not going to force the upgrades to go out to anybody without notice. You do not have to upgrade everybody. We recommend it. It's a lot easier to manage a version of software, help train people if everyone's on the same version. But we do have customers who have a couple people tested who love it, a couple of people who want to just keep using the classic interface for now because that's what they're comfortable with. There are some nuances between, and some of you have pointed those out, and there are some others between the classic and the enhanced version. So if you're more comfortable with the classic version or that just fits your workflow best, you can certainly stay on that. So there's no requirement for that. The upgrade does work. It's a PC product. So if your laptop is a PC, aka not a Mac, it should work, and each user can install on up to 3 machines. So if you have the software installed in the office and you're working remote or you're home and you need it added at home and you want the new version, all of that's fine. If you can't find those files, just email customer success and we'll make sure that you know how to find that so that you can get up and running wherever you are working. Again, if you're like me and you have other questions, and you think of them after a webinar, definitely go ahead and email customer success at linkpoint360.com. I'm behind that, and I'm more than happy to help you. Other than sending out the link to today's webinar, I will make sure that you all also see this slide, which is the link to our knowledge base. So there are step-by-step articles, quick tips. I've done other videos on the new releases, a little more high level, a little shorter, but they may be great as an introduction to other people who you want to get some feedback from on your team. We do have a 14-day free trial. So if you haven't tried LinkPoint Connect, you can certainly trial that. If you've used it before and need to trial again, email customer success will get you set up. Any strange quirks with the software, things you're not sure of, if you need help connecting or you're in the upgrade and you're not sure what to do, you can also email support. Support is going to make sure that they help get you up and running. Otherwise, if you have questions about the account or your upgrade or anything else that I can do to make your experience with us more productive and help you get the most out of your subscription, I'm personally happy to help all of you. I see a lot of names on this list of people who I've spoken to in the past who have gone back and forth quite a bit via email. I'm very happy to see that you've all joined me. I hope you all stay safe. I hope you all stay healthy. I will make sure that you all get copies of everything that I've shown today, and I apologize if you have colleagues who weren't able to get in, technical issues notwithstanding. So thank you again for your interest in our side panel upgrade. I hope that this was helpful to you, and I look forward to working with your teams and to speaking with you again soon.